The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, I will say this. We're the instigators who encourage you at all times to like, share, and subscribe on social media and with all your friends, because it's time now for the Sue Ellen Sanders Show with the one and only Sue Ellen Sanders.
And welcome to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. I have got to share with you, I'm so excited. I just found a new way to sign my initials, courtesy of our next guest. First of all, Sandra Van Vorst is my next guest, along with Jeanne Johansen. And you might notice that they have alliterative names, that they repeat letters in the name. So Sandra was showing me how she puts her initials as SV with the squared, and I'm Sue Ellen Sanders. So from now on, I'm signing my initials with S squared. I know, and Jeanne Johansen is also J squared. So we're all square in the studio today, and we're going to have a great time. We're going to talk about a nonprofit you may not be aware of. Several nonprofit organizations.
It's the same one.
It's the same one, yeah. different parts of it.
It's our different parts of it. It's our programming.
Okay. Well, we'll be talking about that, and we'll start with Jeanne Johansen, because she is actually the Fort Pierce Art Club president, and we're going to talk about the art club and what it does and how it could benefit you. And then we'll also talk about a new offshoot of the art club, which is Stitches of Love. And Sandra is the director of Stitches of Love. As you can imagine, it involves sewing. So we'll learn all about that, but let's start out by welcoming Jeanne, who's actually been on the show before, because she wears a number of different artiste hats in the community. Welcome, Jeanne. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. I really appreciate this opportunity, and it is such a joy to be back in the studio, especially after COVID and all this craziness.
Yes.
So it is lovely to be here. We were together back when the Fort Pierce Art Club was known as the Treasure Coast Art Association, and we were with Susie Cassens doing Treasures in Town, or also called Treasures in the Trunk, where we were trying to revitalize Fort Pierce, which we did.
and it's so vital now and full of life. Yep. That there's hardly room for everybody to fit.
You got that right. We gave up our studio, which we'd had for 36 years on Avenue A, and it's been probably one of the best things we did, because now we're focused on giving to the community and creating free programs in art.
And there's not as many people who are walking in to look at your art. There's more people that you're helping and teaching.
We're actually more focused in teaching and bringing the art to the people. Our mission is we bring people to the arts and art to the people. And so that is our mission. And we do 2 programs. When we shut down, we started doing festivals. And we raised enough money that we then started doing free art classes every Monday. We continue to this day. It's going to be almost 3 years. We do it every Monday from 10 until noon at Cool Beans Brew at 1115 Delaware Avenue in Fort Pierce. The public's invited. We bring everything, including a little idea for you to draw and paint. Then we also...
Wait, let's not move on from that yet. So who are the type of people who come to this every Monday?
We have had as many as 30 people. That includes any age. We have children, grandparents with their grandchildren. We have adults. We have teenagers. We have young people.
What a fun bonding activity.
It has been absolutely wonderful. And some of the parents that teach their children at home come out for the art, which is really wonderful too.
It's like having an art teacher when you're homeschooling.
Right, and we've been very fortunate. We have 2 teachers who have joined us and now help us out. One of us is Elizabeth Graham, and the other one is Tina Fey. Not Fey.
No, Tina Fey is like a famous
I would
actress.
love to have Tina Fey come.
I was like, whoa, Tina Fey's in Fort Pierce, and I didn't know.
Tina Floyd.
Okay.
That's why I got confused.
I was so excited.
Yeah, I love Tina Fey.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that would be good. We do it at Cool Beans, and they've been very supportive of us and allowing us to raise money. We did the magnificent miniature masterpieces there when we first started that, which are little miniature masterpieces.
I know them. And the last time that you partnered with the Alliance
Yep.
and had those little mini masterpieces for sale,
Yeah.
I bought like 7 of them, and
Thank you.
I'm still using them as special gifts that I give people that are very meaningful in my life, because some of them had little sayings on them, some of them were pure art, but they were all purely wonderful.
Yeah, and
They
we're
were-
doing it again this year in December. We'll be
Yes.
doing it again. We use that money to sponsor our scholarships and our programs for children. We give to IRSC, and we give to the local high schools. This year we're looking to have 3 high schools compete as well. So we always had 1 school. This year we're looking to have 3 from Fort Pierce, and this will be really fantastic. We get both professional artists as well as the young people, and some of the young people's art I'm seeing, I just can't wait. My heart just goes pitter patter, because I'm like you, I buy a lot.
Yeah. And you know, it's something that is so special and so unique, because each one of them is completely different.
Completely different. And what doesn't sell, we've been fortunate to pass on to nursing homes, so brighten their rooms. That's become our
awesome.
tradition. If they don't sell, we pass them on to nursing homes.
So one of the things you do when you are offering your free art lessons is teach people how to paint their own little mini masterpieces.
The people learn how to paint all types of pieces. They learn crafts, they learn watercolors, acrylics. We've done painting on shells, painting on canvas, painting on, you name it, we painted on it.
Do
pretty
they
much.
need to make reservations in order to come?
Nope.
And they don't need to bring anything but themselves and maybe their reading glasses.
Their reading glasses and a little bit of money to buy a cup of coffee or a drink, because
Yes.
we're out on the porch. So
Yes.
we're in the building, but we're also out on the porch. And so it gets a little warm, but it's beautiful over there. It's very friendly. There's art everywhere in Cool Beans, so you can really enjoy the art by the other artists that are there. And it's a really lovely place to be. And we're also teaming up with, we've teamed up with 2nd Street Art Gallery down on 2nd Street. We talk about somebody back downtown, because I have my art there, which has been absolutely wonderful to go back in with other artists into a gallery where we're allowed now to have our own meetings there and do things there. I get donations brought in, and then I bring them into the gallery, and artists can come and get our donations.
Who are the members of the Fort Pierce Art Club?
They vary. We have members that go as far as up into Vero Beach, and we've gone as far down as, we had a couple down in Palm City and one in Palm Beach.
But all different types of artists?
All different types of artists. We've done different programs, like we did teamwork with the Elliott Museum during the 2020. I teased them that we were the only people in 2020 to do an exhibit that had revolved around women and women's issues. They did In Her Image.
Very timely.
Very timely, because
Yeah.
it was the 100-year anniversary of women's right to vote, which was phenomenal. And we really had a fabulous show. And those artists came from all over. So there's a lot of professional artists, and growing. We are growing in the Treasure Coast with artists. It's incredible.
Well, there's a lot of people who at different times in their life do different types of art, but also the percentage of their time that they spend doing art might vary depending on what they're doing as their full-time job.
Right. It's very difficult to do art and do a full-time job. And I found that over the years. I used to go to work and then I'd go to the local college to take art classes after work, just simply because it was my way of working that both sides of the brain, if you will.
Right.
And I understand it's difficult to do that, but we're going to offer a new program coming in September. So not only are we going to have a Monday art program for anyone coming to Cool Beans, we're going to have an after work art program similar to the one we've been offering for the last almost 3 years at the 2nd Street Art Gallery run by Janet Fuller. And that's going to be after work. Come on in. We'll have everything we do on the front end, but it'll be a little bit more geared towards adults because we were looking for adults.
If people want to get all the information about the Fort Pierce Art Club, is there a website address or Facebook name that
we're
they
very
can look up?
easy to find. We're called the Fort Pierce Art Club now.
So that's pretty simple, yeah.
Yeah, we were formed by A. Backus years and years ago. He was the first president.
Wow, what
Yeah.
a history, huh?
Yeah, and we incorporated in 1966 as the Fort Pierce Art Club. They changed their name to the Treasure Coast Art Association back in 1989, and then we changed it back to the Fort Pierce Art Club we still have the other name as well, but back in 2018 we went back to the original name with the same focus, because he really opened up his studio to the artists to come in. He did his shows in his studio. I've done the same thing with my studio. That's where we keep our art supplies and that type of thing. And we do have gathering of artists at my place, not recently because of some of the pandemic and that type of thing, but we'll hope to get that back in place. But it was that same feeling that Backus gave. We wanted to introduce into the community again. One of the most exciting news is I got just recently, which was today.
Oh, that is recent.
I talked to the Florida Cultural Alliance, their cultural council in Tallahassee, and we got approval for our grant going in 2023. If the state funds it, we get a grant for a new program we want to kick off, which is called Color Fort Pierce Beautiful. And we want to bring in all the things that Edwin Benny brought to Fort Pierce. Most people don't realize that Edwin Benny is the creator of Crayola crayon and the dustless chalk.
Yes.
And he had the incentive and the desire to open the inlet, save our town and all its businesses, because he infused money into our bank, the Central Bank of Fort Pierce, during the Depression. And there was the Seaway Drive originally was known as Benny Drive. There's a small piece of it
that's
left.
Still Benny Drive.
Yeah, that's a small piece, but it used to be that whole area was, instead of being Seaway Drive, it was Benny Drive. And he opened up the inlet with other people like Attorney Fee and people like that worked on it. And it was really, really wonderful to try and bring back that joy of crayons, which every child gets when they first get it. And chalk. We love chalk.
And adults too.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're right. It's at an early age. And I remember where the highlight of my children's life was getting a crayon box that had more than the basics. And they had all of those different shades of different colors and all the really cool names that were so descriptive.
Yeah.
So, it introduced color into their life, and it's something that, everybody can relate to.
And it's true.
They
And
weren't broken.
Get a little close.
What?
Get closer to the mic.
I was saying, and they weren't broken.
Yes.
They were brand new with points.
but we have bags of broken ones, which we plan on doing things with.
We used to make candles
Yeah.
from the broken
Yes.
crayons.
You can do that. There's a lot of good things you can do from it, and we're hoping that with the time frame that we've got, we'll get the entire town having a blast with crayons and really coloring Fort Pierce beautifully. I have some really wild ideas because I like to do wild things.
I can tell.
Yeah,
Yes,
one of my
she really
wildest
does.
things was last year we did our first tattoo show at Pierce Cider, for the Cider Works.
Nice.
On North 2nd Street. We did our first one. The biggest complaint we got was we didn't invite enough people. So we have changed that. We will be doing it again in November, but we are inviting everyone.
Okay.
So we're always trying to be exclusive.
So what was it exactly? Were they
Well,
like
basically it
real
was
tattoos or fake
they
tattoos?
are real
or-
tattoos. What it is that the concept was I
Don't touch the table. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
the
I
idea
can see you're a hand talker.
very excitable.
Yeah.
The idea behind it was I was working in an art store up in Vero, and you'd see artists coming in with these incredible tattoos on them. And you can't ask somebody to show you their tattoos in public, really. So the event was
Well, you can, but then they think you're weird.
absolutely. So
Or
this
try-
was
yeah,
an
or
area
more.
where we allowed people to come out, show off their
Uh-huh.
tattoo, talk about why they got the tattoo, the story behind the tattoo, a lot of them in honor of people and the stories were
Yeah.
quite fascinating. It was really wonderful to see the art on people. The gentleman who won the bestest show, I would have put that art on my wall. No bars. It was gorgeous. And I think we had 24 categories, and we had awards for everyone. It was phenomenal.
So that's going to come back in November.
Right.
So
these-
and people can find this out by going to your website or checking you out on Facebook, and you have a lot of other things that are going on as the Fort Pierce Art Club, and I know you're excited about one of the latest programs. It's not really brand new anymore.
It is kind of still brand new.
Okay.
We're still working this one. Sandy Van Vorst and I were talking at Heathcote Botanical Gardens one day, and she says, I really want to do this, and they was going to do it at Botanical Gardens, and I'm like, the mosquitoes would carry me away. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Between that and the heat.
Yeah.
So I said, let's talk some more, and that was last year. And we put it together. She basically did 99% of it. I run for the money.
Yeah.
And that's what I work for, is to try and get the money to make this go. We did manage to get a city grant and a children's services grant this year so far that has allowed us to expand and to make what started out on my art tables into a professional looking sewing room.
All right. So we're talking about Stitches of Love.
Yes.
In case you're wondering. Stitches of Love, also known as SOL, you might see it abbreviated, is the newest brainstorm, the newest fundee of the
It's a-
Fort Pierce Art Club.
It's our newest program.
Yeah.
It
And Sandra Van Vorst is here along with Jeanne, and she's going to talk about, as Jeanne said, the idea was originally because really sewing is art. Sewing is
it is.
definitely
There
art.
is a
Definitely art.
phenomenal exhibit in Paris during the last year. It teamed up paintings. With the famous fashion designers. So you walked into a gallery, you had the art on the walls, and then you'd have the reflective painting designs that they were put on Ralph Lauren and other famous designers. It was phenomenal.
Was this the one, or is this something different
There were
where they were showing people wearing clothes and in the background? Or was it coincidence, the series of photographs of people who were wearing clothes that was matching or coordinating the art that was behind them?
A lot of the designers back in the 60s used the designs by the very famous artists of that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you would see in the 60s and 70s a lot of the art on clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did it in 18 museums during just after the pandemic was pretty much quieting down a little bit. So it was really inspirational when she came to me, and I went, oh, they're doing it in Paris. Why not do it here? That's our dream, is eventually.
Paris and Fort Pierce.
Right, we will
Yeah.
be, that'll be our sister city. So
We're
I
kind
like
of
that.
counting on some of our more advanced students to design clothing
Uh-huh.
and then be able to show their clothing.
she bringing art of sewing is an adjunct for everyone. Everyone needs that craft that they can use all their life. Art is a craft that you use. People do all types of inventions. It can be like creating crayons or creating chalk. But sewing is something that once a skill is learned, you don't lose it. It's like riding a bike.
Right. Right.
And it's something that serves you your whole life if you decide you want to go to a thrift shop and change all your clothing around. It's really, really very valuable.
But, I mean, really, aren't there like two types of mindsets when it comes to sewing? The one is that you get a pattern and you follow the pattern and you do exactly what the pattern says to do. And the only creative input you get is the fabric you choose.
That's a good place to begin, because it's through that type of sewing that you'll gain the skills. Once you feel confident, you have the skills and you feel confident, you'll see a lot of sewists become very creative.
I have a friend who just the other day posted a comment, Linda Dusonic. I don't know if any of you know her, but she's a
No.
quilter. And she's also a sewer. And she posted a picture saying, oh, I was bored on Monday, so I sewed myself this little orange dress. And it was like, the material was like bright orange with kind of a flame-looking print on it. And it was definitely a work of art that somebody could wear. But she is an advanced sewer and a quilter. But that's the other thing, too, you know, other than patterns. You know, you have so many different types of sewing, so many different types of material. But certainly quilting itself, the most successful and artistic quilters are the ones that are combining color and texture and shape.
Just
To
like an
create
artist
art.
on canvas. Just like an
Right.
art, they use the same principles that an artist uses to give the eye appeal and to draw the viewer in.
Yes.
And that's
I'm revealing a little secret here, but right now I am making bags for my team for Stitches of Love. And I sat there thinking, I don't want to make them all just typical handbags or whatever. So I have sat down and I have thought, and I start cutting, and I've created about 4 different bags that I don't think anyone's ever seen before.
Yeah.
Because they're just totally out of my head. So now it's
So
art.
you're creating art.
Right.
Yeah. The thing I want to tell you about how the Stitches of Love came about was that she and I had been talking. We had no place. Remember, we don't have a studio anymore.
Right.
We didn't have any money either.
We didn't have any money. Didn't have any studio.
But that didn't stop either.
Of course
you.
not.
Yeah.
And I had this incredible idea that I was to go to the Indian River Presbyterian Church and ask. Now, my parents, Susie Cassins and I, who'd been on your show before,
Right.
we know the Presbyterian Church very well because our parents went there.
Yes.
And I went and I asked. And the gentleman I asked was Al Rivet, who's now a pastor. And he's actually leaving town and going
He
to
is,
yes, he's
yeah.
going away. But
Just
I asked him-
temporarily.
yeah, just
Just,
temporarily, but he's so thrilled.
Yeah.
So I asked, and they said, yes, you could do it. We're going to give you the choir room. Well, that choked me up, something terrible, because I'd lost my parents in 2020 and 2014. But anyway, that's where they sang together. So here we were starting this new program where my parents' ghosts are floating around, kind of like in a joyful ghost, because these are people that really love to give to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father was very
I sang in
involved.
that choir room for a year too.
Did you?
I did.
Yes. So it's really
Back
been
when I was
wonderful.
one of the young ones.
Yes, we were all there one time. Yeah, so that's when he said yes, and then they gave us that room. We used to set up and then break down every night. Now this summer we've been up the whole time, and we're getting our own room,
Yes.
which is fantastic. And Sandy's going to tell you more about that. But we are so thankful for the Indian River Presbyterian Church for giving us that opportunity. That made it come to fruition.
Jeannie, you were the big impetus for making.
Get
that.
a little closer to the mic.
I'm
Sandy.
sorry, I keep
That's
forgetting
okay.
that.
I know.
Um,
You forgot you were on radio.
That's a good thing. That speaks
That
well
is.
for you.
You're having that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But you were a big impetus in it, and
I was
helping
led.
me make my dream come true.
Yeah, I was led to do it. I was
Yeah.
literally led to do it. Just the fact that I'm in the choir room where my parents sang.
Yeah.
And last weekend we did a memorial to my parents there, which was really wonderful. So it was great to find out all the comments from people and what my parents had done in this town. So it was really thrilling.
Well, Dr. Sam Rutland and his wife Mimi are still two of my closest friends. They were the pastor and the pastor's wife when I was at church there, and then they moved down to the Miami area, and now they've moved back to Indian River County, although Sam is retired now.
Yeah.
But I have so many wonderful community-minded memories of that church because they have a finger in everybody's pie, whatever they can do to help. It's the same church who's done the Living Nativity every Christmas time. So
Until COVID.
until COVID, and
Right.
maybe it'll
They'll
come
probably
back
bring
again.
it back.
They're
They
thinking
will.
about it.
And my kids grew up and the Living Nativity, playing a family on the road to Jerusalem. So we still have photos of that too. At any rate, I'm not surprised, but I'm delighted that the church has been so involved in helping bring this to fruition.
Well,
and I-
Pastor Norton will tell you that in supporting Stitches of Love, that we are helping them meet their mission, which is to be a resource
Right.
to the community.
And that's so wonderful to
Right.
hear.
And I'm going to be
Yeah.
leaving you guys in just a few minutes, if that's okay with
Yes,
you.
yeah.
And
As you slip out, there will be other guests with Stitches of Love slipping
absolutely
in.
coming in and taking over.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say, I wanted to put a shout out that my parents were Howard and Harriet Brenner. My mother was on the planning board. My father was on the housing board, and they came back from they were born and raised in Fort Pierce. They were friends with the Danahowers and
Yes,
the Inns.
they're originals.
They're original Fort Pierce.
Yes.
So I really am so thrilled for Stitches of Love, and I'm thrilled for the Fort Pierce Art Club, as you can tell. And I'm very thankful to be here and to have spoken to you. It's been absolutely wonderful.
And Jeannie, before you leave, just
Yeah.
one last. So the website
is the FortPierceArtClub.org.
okay.
And the Facebook is Fort Pierce Art Club. And we have a Facebook page for Stitches of Love for our community. And that is what Sandy's going to talk about. And she's going to talk about all the wonderful things that they've been making and giving to the community, as well as teaching children how
That's
to
awesome.
sew.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join with us. And I'm going to let you slip out, and then Isabella and Ashley will be joining us. And Ashley is one of the teachers for Stitches of Love, and Isabella is one of the students. So we'll be talking to them.
That'll be wonderful.
Jeannie, have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you later.
And if anybody wants to email us, it's the fortpierce.art.club@gmail.com if they want any more information.
Awesome. Thank
Right.
you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Talk
All
to you
right.
later, Jeannie.
Okay, take care.
So Sandy,
Yes,
Stitches of Love. Tell me where your background came from that led you to the first thoughts of Stitches of Love?
Well, let me just first clarify that the name of our project is really Stitches of Love for Our Community.
Okay, but that's a mouthful.
It is. So we just say SOL. But the point is that our mission is to teach youth. That's what we started out for, was youth. The arts and the skills of sewing, and to inspire them to stewardship for their community.
So not only are you teaching them the skills of sewing and to experience
art.
sewing, but also giving back to the community.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's part of it too.
And the, the legacy of A.E. Backus, to be able to pass things on and give things back. Our students, throughout the series of classes, each series, they have to make something that is donated to an organization in our community that serves people's needs, such as we have made tote bags for foster children. We have made superhero capes for children who are very ill, zippered pouches, again for foster children, reading pillows with books donated from Children's Services Council for, homeless children. So that's the stewardship part, is to make them aware of the responsibility of being stewards of their community and taking care of each other.
Do you teach adults as well as students?
We are just now starting some adult classes that are going to begin in October. The 1st of October, it's going to be 2 weekends, all day Saturday, half day on Sunday, for 2 weekends in October, the first and second weekends. We'll feed them lunch and teach them how to sew. When Stitches of Love...
Or reteach them, because many of them
Some
may
of them,
have
yes.
learned when they were young.
Some do. Some have.
Or younger.
When we began the whole thing, I was being flooded with adults saying, well, can I come? Because we do 10 to 17 years of age. Although 9-year-old might slip in there every now and then.
A well-behaved, calm 9-year-old.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so I was gathering names, and I thought, we have to get to this adult thing as well.
Okay.
One other thing I do want to share, though, is that we also will be setting up, I'll be writing curriculum for a program for 4-H, a 4-H group.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recently approached by an organization in Stewart that houses foster children who are not placed in homes. And so she and I are going to work together to set up a group of sewing classes just for them, for those girls.
That's awesome. Now we've been joined by Isabella and Ashley, and Ashley is one of your teachers.
Yes, she is.
And Isabella is one of the first batch of students. You want to talk about how the two of you got involved? Let's start with Ashley.
I'd like to say that Ashley first was a student.
Oh, she was a
She was
student
a
as
student.
well.
Yes,
Yes.
I got to sneak in because I'm Isabella's mom. So
Okay.
we got to come in as a
team.
daughter team.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Make sure you get close enough to the microphones, both of you, and remember that your chairs swivel. But if you swivel, your voice will swivel.
Got it.
Okay. So Ashley, whose idea was it first to learn to sew? Was it yours or Isabella?
I saw the post on Facebook, and Isabella and I had talked about it many times. My mom sews, and my dad sews as well. So I did learn how to sew when I was younger, although not very well. And I wanted to relearn, as you said.
Yeah.
And Isabella needed to learn. We did have
And
a
better not for you to be teaching her.
Correct,
'Cause it's
right.
kind of like when you're teaching your own kid to drive. It's
Yes, doesn't
not
go
a
well.
good, yeah.
Exactly. So I saw it on Facebook. I contacted Sandy and said, can we be in it together? And she said that we could, and we both learned how to sew for 10 weeks. And then I became a teacher in the second set that we did, which actually is the third set of 10-week classes.
So the student becomes the teacher. which
Yes.
is you're giving back of yourself. of
Yes,
your
but I'm
time.
still learning.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you guys did in those early classes?
Go ahead.
We made zipper pouches
Mm-hmm.
with like a lot of different fabrics that we got to choose. We made what else did we made pencil rolls, and those were fun. I still use mine. You can put like colored pencils in them, and we made
The little pouches with the snap on them, so we learned how to use a
Yes.
snap.
yes.
Then we made the capes for the children.
I
that were
love
sick.
the capes for the children. That is like the coolest idea ever.
And they turned out very cute.
Yeah.
And then we did an upcycling project from something that was, thrifted. And I think ours, we did,
Placemats,
right? We chose placemats and made them into like fancy purses.
Oh, how very cool. Well, it's funny because when my daughter was, I don't know, like in kindergarten or first grade, I had never admitted to anyone in my family that I could actually sew, although I'd learned to sew when I was young and just had never used the skill. But she came home and she had to be a pilgrim for Thanksgiving as part of her class thing. And I remember my kids coming and having everything set up, and I borrowed a sewing machine because I didn't own one at the time, and I had it set up, and everyone who walked in the door said the same thing. Oh my gosh, Sue Ellen, you can sew. Like, yes, I can, but I'm just not good at it because I'm not a patient person, and I think I'm a really good candidate for your adult art class because I do understand some of the basics. It's been a while since I've done it, but I want to get to the end so quickly that I step on the pedal really fast and then I spend more time tearing out what I've sewn than I actually do sewing.
Well, a sewist's best friend is a seam ripper.
Well, and I
Picking the
yes.
stitches out.
But at that point, in any type of creative endeavor, I usually took the fabric and wadded it up and threw it away. I'm sorry to
working
say.
through that.
Yes.
I think you might really enjoy our adult classes.
No, I know
Coming
that
up,
I,
2
I-
weekends, I'll
yes.
sign you up.
Okay, and I know that I would, and I love the idea of repurposing old things
Yes.
because that's one way to make something new again and to make it something that's usable.
I often acquire fabrics from Goodwill, Salvation Army, and places like that, and upcycle it.
Let me tell you what happens to me when I'm in a fabric store looking at all the fabric. All of a sudden, and for years I would buy all this fabric and not use it. But I would have, like, I would cover chairs with it or plan to cover chairs with it. But I mean, I am in a Joann's fabric or even in the Walmart fabric area. I'm overwhelmed with excitement.
The colors.
The colors, the materials, the
textures.
textures, the way the colors go together, and I actually when my daughter was in her between sophomore, I think in summer after sophomore year of college, she came home and she had all of her old sports t-shirts from different teams, and she decided she was going to make a quilt because she said, how hard could it be? And she had no sewing expertise at all, but at that time we did have a sewing machine. So she took it out and she cut out the art out of all of her sports t-shirts from high school and from college and race t-shirts, and she laid them all out without measurement, I might add. And then she went to a fabric store, and for each square that she had set out, she picked a coordinating color fabric to go around it. And so that was the first thing she did. And I know you're just going to cringe hearing about how she went about this. Because she had the art that she'd cut out of the t-shirt. She sewed on 4 sides with all the different patterns. And I don't have to tell you how much money she spent. We spent
I'm
on
not
the different.
surprised.
So here she has like 30 squares, and they're all different sizes.
But a lot of quilts are made with them all being different.
Well, when she came to trying to sew them together, it wasn't successful. And luckily we had a friend who knew how to quilt, and she had gotten all the stuff for it, all the material for the back of it, and all the squares, and our friend took all the squares and sewed them together, and she had to add things and make everything fit. And it's a beautiful quilt. And so my daughter is 28 now, and so she's had it for like probably 8-9 years, and it'll be something that she has forever. But it just made both of us realize one thing, how much quilting and sewing is like art, and also that quilting and sewing is also like math.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of math, and we actually integrate the academics into the sewing lessons, because I've taught for 37 years. So all through the project, we'll be throwing in things about math, things about reading. A lot of different academics are built right into our curriculum.
Isabella, what's your favorite part of learning to sew?
I love being with all the people there. We're with a very good group. It's a very fun experience to go and hang out with friends, and also be able to share like an interest over sewing, and being able to do projects that are similar, but being able to customize them and learn things about each other.
Do you also get to help give the things that you're making for foster children and children that are sick? Do you get to help give them away?
Well, we do like take pictures with them and everything, and then
and then you see when they get them?
Right, and then they're provided by, Sandy or somebody else in the group. So they haven't had the ability to have direct contact with the recipients yet.
We're
the whole
on
pandemic
that.
thing.
We're
Yeah, I
working
know.
on that.
Right.
I don't want to be a whiner about the pandemic, but it's just really gotten in the way.
It has.
Yes.
Definitely.
It has.
But, everybody's learning to deal, and, I've been doing this radio show for 22 years and spent a year doing it by Zoom from home
my gosh.
because of the pandemic. And let me tell you, it was not near as much fun. So I love having you all in the studio. And Ashley, I love the fact that you kind of use this learning to sew as a bonding experience with Isabella. How did it change your relationship in any way? Did it strengthen it, or?
Oh, definitely. I would say so, because it gives us, 2 hours every Thursday. I have 2 other children who are much younger. So it gives us 2 hours every Thursday that's just for she and I to do something together.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the weekends, or sometimes on school nights, now that we're back in school, she has a sewing machine that she got for her birthday, and I have a machine. So we'll get them out, and we also go to Joann's or Michael's and, buy all of the things. I always say hobbies are 2 different sets of people. There's the hobby set that buys the things, and then there's the hobby set that actually does, the hobby. So we're trying to move into both hobby sets. We purchase, and we also try to do our sewing. She's done a purse at home, like a tote bag. She's working on her second tote bag now. And she's got fabric to do leggings. So it's been a really fun thing for us to do together and work together on.
Do you have a pattern for the leggings?
Not just yet, but I have been looking for one, yes.
I have found a couple, so I'll make sure you get them.
Thank you.
And Halloween is always a great time to be capable of using a sewing machine, because honestly, some of the costumes that you can create are so much better than what you could buy for 5 or 10 times the cost.
Definitely, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. My mom always made our costumes growing up. So
My mom did too.
yes,
Yeah.
it's was one of those things, at least in our family, was becoming a lost art, and I wanted to find it again so that we could, Bella and I do that together. Definitely this Halloween, and both for ourselves and for the little kids. That she's excited to help make them things as well as herself. So
My mom wasn't an expert seamstress. She was just a kind of in between, but she made our Halloween costumes. And then one year she made a prom dress for me. And it was just a beautiful dress. And there's a picture of me somewhere wearing it because it was back in the dark ages before Facebook. But I had picked the material, and I was just so excited about the material I picked. And we hadn't really studied the fact that when it got washed, it wasn't going to look the same. So it was a one-time wear dress.
right, with a lot of love in it.
With a lot of love in it, yeah. Good. There's so many. So really, as far as a project, you've got the art experience, you've got the excitement of putting something together. You learn patience. You learn you've got to use math because you can't just blindly sew a seam without knowing where that seam is going. Isabella, what are your favorite parts of sewing?
I like being able to just be able create something. It's very rewarding to know that something that you're using, you created. I think it makes you hold more value to the things you have when you create them yourself. That's probably my favorite part. Yeah.
Isabella likes picking out funky fabrics for her.
The fabrics,
Yes.
I'm telling you. Next time you guys go to the fabric store, just call me. I'll go with you.
Yes.
And ooh and ah.
Definitely.
Isabella, when you complete one of the items that you've sewn and you go home and you use that item, what does it make you feel about yourself with regard to abilities and success?
It makes me very happy that I can actually use something that I made. It the pants that I made, I wear them to sleep all the time. I always show them off to my friends, and it just makes me feel it's very rewarding, yes, to be able to know that I made that and I made it well enough that it's
That
usable.
you can wash it.
Yes.
And you've given some of your things away to your friends.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to just make one more point about the value of teaching people how to sew. And if you think about Maslow's pyramid of basic human needs, and one of them is to be able to feel like you have self-worth and to be able to have people appreciate things that you do. But to go even further, one of the things that I think when they finish a product is that it really does help build their self-confidence and their belief in themselves. So often we think we're going to build a child up by saying, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you did well, that's so good, that's so great, that's so wonderful. But that does not build confidence in a child, in themselves. It's by doing, by accomplishing. So I think that's a great value from learning how to sew.
Isabella, when you first sat down in front of the sewing machine, were you worried you weren't going to be able to do it?
I was very worried. I was worried that I was going to go throughout not understanding well, and that I wouldn't be able to do it as well as my peers. But in the end, by the end of the day, I had a pretty good understanding. We have very good teachers who are very good at explaining how to use the stuff and when to use it, and now I have a very good understanding of a sewing machine. Yes.
Of how it all works. You could actually teach too.
Oh,
probably.
wouldn't it be wonderful?
Yes.
She definitely could.
But now you know there's a lot of things in your life that you can tackle and overcome and learn to do and be confident about.
Yes.
I definitely have noticed that she's gotten more confident since we started sewing, and she's able to think up of an idea and execute the idea, and she's happy with the product and happy with herself. So we've really enjoyed it.
Good.
And it's, as you said, a great bonding experience for you to have, and also to be that type of person who goes into a fabric store and doesn't just buy the fabric, but actually uses it.
Right.
There's a lot of different types of sewing projects, and there's a lot of different people who have skills in sewing. And one of the things you're looking for, I know, Sandy, is volunteers. Tell us, we just have a few more minutes, but tell us a little bit about what you're looking for with volunteers.
Well, the first thing I would look for in a volunteer is someone who really enjoys being with youth and enjoys teaching. Our volunteers, almost all of them know how to sew, but we do take volunteers who do not know how to sew if they're willing to listen to the teacher and follow those directions to help students. And then they also
so you could
learn
be the guide.
a guide,
Yes.
yeah, but they also learn how to sew in that process.
How can people reach out to you if they are interested in volunteering?
Well, they can go onto my Facebook page, Sandra Van Vorst, or they can go onto the Stitches of Love for our community Facebook page. But they can also contact me at my Stitches of Love email.
And when they do that, they can reach out and tell you what they're looking at doing. You're also looking for, probably if you're like me and you may have some fabric put away that you picked out and you're just not going to use.
Well, I was going to ask you about that fabric.
Yes. that fabric can be donated to people who actually will use it.
We always need fabric and sewing notions. So, and actually this whole program was built by donations. Completely by donations from people.
So as far as the sewing, the project of the Stitches of Love, you're looking for volunteers who can teach not just sewing but help facilitate the sewing classes. You're looking for students who are interested in taking and right now you have the youth classes ongoing.
Well, we go in a series of 10 weeks at a time. We're
Okay.
ending one this week, and we'll be starting our next series in a few weeks,
So-
in about a month.
So if you follow her Stitches of Love Facebook page, you'll be able to tell when new classes are starting. And then in October, you're going to have back-to-back weekends where you're teaching adult classes.
Correct. And I actually do take lists of names people just say, they
Ahead
want to
of
be in,
time.
and I'll write their names down.
That's awesome. So Sandra Van Vorst has been my guest, and she's the director of Stitches of Love. And we've ended the show with Isabella, who is one of the students for the first series of classes, along with her mother Ashley, who was a student with Isabella and has become the teacher.
That's right.
So welcome. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. You can get more information on Sandra's Facebook page, or you can check out the Sue Ellen Sanders radio show and rewatch the show if you'd like. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with
The
more.
Sue Ellen Sanders Show with archives on YouTube. Go to